Viking guests. My name is Helen. I'm half Spanish and half English, based in Barcelona, a beautiful cosmopolitan city. I started in the tourism industry 30 years ago, and I am passionate about travel, both by traveling abroad and by hosting friends and family in my own city. It will be my pleasure to tour you around Barcelona. Due to local COVID restrictions, we have prepared a series of videos for you to get a flavor of Barcelona. We miss you all, and we do hope you will be able to come over in the very near future and explore the city for yourself. In the meantime, sit back comfortably and enjoy this virtual tour of Barcelona. Located between the Gothic quarter and the Ciutadella Park, El Born is one of Barcelona's trendiest and most popular neighborhoods. It is home to some of the oldest buildings in the city, and it's not only one of the most historical areas of Barcelona, but also one of its liveliest. Many of the early inhabitants were fishermen and dock workers, but as time passed, noblemen and rich merchants began to construct houses there, and the neighborhood's social fabric took on a new dimension. Popular with tourists and the local international community, it is nowadays famous for its boho feel and artistic edge, as well as its great tapas bars and trendy bistros. Probably the greenest oasis in the city of Barcelona, Parc of Ciutadella invites you to relax, to rebond, to go for long walks, for a picnic, or to use a rowing boat on the lake. Constructed during the 19th century, the park was designed under the command of Josep Fonsera. The young and then unknown architect Antoni Gaudí supported him with the design of the waterfall, which is without question the Parc de la Ciutadella most eye-catching feature. The water basin in front of the fountain is guarded by winged dragons, a figure quite commonly found in his work. In the grounds of the park, you can find the zoo, the Catalan Parliament, the Modern Art Museum, which is situated in the building of the Parliament, and the Castle of the Three Dragons, a building built by architect Lluís Domènech i Muntaner, one of the leading representatives of the Art Catalan Nouveau. Definitely an oasis of peace in the middle of a busy city. It was in 1888 when Barcelona hosted the Universal Exhibition, and the Arc de Triomf was built as the gateway to the fair held in the Parc de la Ciutadella. Built of red bricks in the new Moorish style, the Arc de Triomf rises majestically in this park. The architect, Josep Vilaseca, designed the monument, and its Moorish style, which was currently fashionable in Spain, serves as a counterpoint to the buildings that have been used in Barcelona to date, Gothic buildings and modern structures. On sunny days, you will find many locals and tourists relaxing in the grass fields nearby, while having a picnic or just relaxing and talking. Designed by Antoni Rovira i Trias and inaugurated in 1876, the Mercat del Born was Barcelona's first cast-iron covered market, and it is the largest of its kind in Europe. The abandoned market building fell into decay until 2002, when work started to convert it into a library. The library project came into an abrupt halt when remains of the 18th century Barcelona were unearthed. The large number of artifacts recovered and the written records have been used to create an exhibition that will bring you an insight into the life in Barcelona in the 18th century. The wonderful Basilica of St. Mary of the Seas stands in the Ribera neighborhood, an area located by the sea and home to a mix of sailors, harbor workers, fishermen, craftsmen, and merchants. In the Middle Ages, the long periods of time it took to build a church, often more than a century, usually involved changes in the architectural style. Santa Maria del Mar is an exception. It was built in just 55 years, and it's the only surviving church in pure Catalan Gothic style. Designed by Berenguer de Montagut, and due to its location by the sea, Santa Maria del Mar was the place of worship for the shipwrights, sailors, and merchants of Gothic Barcelona. Unlike Barcelona's cathedral, which was being built at the same time and was paid for by the king, the Basilica de Santa Maria del Mar was principally funded by local people. Sailors and porters transported tons of stone on their backs from the quarries of Montjuic. The church suffered damages through history. An earthquake destroyed the large rose window, which was later replaced by the one we can see today. During the Spanish Civil War, the anarchists set it on fire, and the Baroque altar, as well as the large 18th century organ, were lost. By 1967, the basilica had been restored to its former glory. An Australian art critic, Robert Hughes, says that there is no more magnificent and solemn architectural space in Spain than that of Santa Maria del Mar. Barcelona's Gothic quarter is the historical center of Old Barcelona and has a complex urban plan of narrow streets opening into squares. The neighborhood houses many of the city's most famous landmarks, such as the remains of the city's Roman wall, Las Ramblas, the Barcelona Cathedral, and the oldest and well-known theatre, El Liceu. The Gothic quarter was very popular with famous artists and was once home to modernist artists Joan Miró and Pablo Picasso during his teenage years. Gothic Quarter is a neighborhood where you can expect flea markets, antique shops, and street musicians strumming the folk songs of Catalonia. I would like to take you now on a stroll down Barcelona's main pedestrian road, Las Ramblas, a freefall into sensory overload. Las Ramblas is an endless way of people and action. It's a tree-lined street that joins the city centre with the sea and divides the two most central districts of Barcelona, Old Town, the Gothic Quarter on one side and the bohemian area of El Raval on the other. La Rambla became an established centre of Barcelona urban's life, crowded during the day until late hours of the night. You will find the street with many kiosks selling newspapers, flowers and souvenirs, as well as many street performers, traders, cafes and bars. As I said, I would like to take you down the street of Las Ramblas, and the first sight that we encounter is the Fountain of Canaletas. Legend says that if you drink the water from this fountain, you will return to Barcelona in the future. Canaletas is a very popular meeting point for locals and is situated at the top of La Rambla. This fountain is also very well known as it's where many fans of Barcelona's famous football club team meet after important matches to celebrate their victory. A small fountain but a not-to-miss site due to its meaning to the cities. And just a stone thrown away from the fountain, passing through Porta Ferrissa Street, famous for its abundance of shops, you will find the spectacular Barcelona Cathedral. Barcelona Cathedral is the Gothic cathedral, an official seat of the Archbishop of Barcelona. It was constructed from the 13th to the 15th century and completed in 1448. In the late 19th century, the neo-Gothic facade was constructed over the exterior that was common to Catalan churches. The roof is famous for its gargoyles, featuring a wide range of animals, both domestic and mythical. This cathedral is dedicated to Santa Eulàlia of Barcelona, the co-patron saint of the city. She was a young virgin who, according to Catholic tradition, suffered martyrdom during the Roman times. One story says that she was exposed naked in the public square, and the miraculous snowfall in mid-spring covered her bare body. According to the legend, and what I'm about to explain now may sound shocking, this enraged the Romans, so they put her into a barrel and rolled her down a street. Nowadays, this street is known as a Baixada, which means down the street, of Santa Eulàlia. Her body is located in a tomb in the cathedral's crypt. We now return back to Las Ramblas, and on its right side you will find the Boqueria market. Nowhere else in Barcelona is a tourist attraction so closely associated with the daily life of locals, like Mercat de la Boqueria. It's a market where all the senses will be appealed to. Some people market their product prices loudly. In every corner you can experience new smells, familiar or exotic. The colorful presentation of the foods seem like to be the famous style life painter. Sweets, honey, cheese, refined oils, olives, local and exotic fruit, and vegetables, meat, seafood. All fresh and a huge selection. The first mention of Boqueria market in Barcelona dates back to 1217, when tables were installed near the old city gate to sell meat. The current name is believed to derive from the Catalan word boc, meaning goat. Therefore, Boqueria would be a place where goat meat is sold. This diversity makes the Mercat de la Boqueria a very special experience in Barcelona, not to miss out. Continuing our walk through Las Ramblas, and only 150 meters from La Boqueria market, we will find Barcelona's opera's house, El Liceu. The great theatre of the Liceu is an opera house and the oldest theatre in the city. It opened in April 1847 and was built according to plans by architect Miquel Garriga y Roca. With 4,000 seats, it was the largest opera house in Europe. The most important works of classical music were presented here by the greatest singers of the last 2 decades: Domingo, Pavarotti, Caballé, Callas, Tebaldi will always have a special place in the heart of the audience. El Liceu regularly hosts also the largest Wagner festival after the Bayreuth Festival. The auditorium was built after a fire in 1994, and some modern features were introduced. The 8 circular paintings in the roof and the 3 in the forestage were all lost in the fire and were recreated by contemporary artist Pere Jaume. The stage curtain was designed by the famous Catalan designer Antoni Miró. We now keep our walk towards the sea, and directly on the other side of Las Ramblas, almost right in front of the Liceu, is one of Barcelona's most beautiful and emblematic squares, La Plaza Reial. This square is so beautiful, it's no wonder it was named Royal. The ambience of the Plaza Reial is accentuated by the fountains, street lamps and palm trees, and it's one of Barcelona's busiest, most vibrant spots, particularly at night. Actually, the two street lamps on both sides of the central fountain were designed by the young Antoni Gaudí. There are uniform, noble buildings on every side, with porticos and terracotta decorations. These were the home of important Barcelona families. Although this luxurious appearance has been somewhat toned down by a more bohemian atmosphere. Also a great meeting spot during the annual festival La Mercè and the New Year's Eve celebrations. Plaza Reial is Barcelona's best-loved portico square. And from here we continue our way down to almost the end of Las Ramblas, where we will find the statue of Christopher Columbus raising majestically in an open and impressive square in front of the sea. With approximately 60 meters, the statue was obviously built in honor of the discoverer of America, Christopher Columbus, and inaugurated on the occasion of the World's Fair in Barcelona in 1888. A curiosity is that the statue is in fact facing the opposite direction of America, and it points towards Mallorca. The visit is particularly worthwhile if you want to get an overview of the old town and the old port of Barcelona. The view also extends to the Sagrada Família, the Tibidabo and the Montjuïc mountain. Our walk down the Ramblas has arrived, but since we walk towards the sea, I can certainly don't miss talking about Barcelona Beach. Called Barceloneta Beach, we are now in one of the city's many sandy beaches that stretch across more than 4 kilometers of coastline, and it's just a 15-minute walk from the city center. Here you can find thousands of sun seekers, lively beach bars, and some of Barcelona's best seafood restaurants. It also has a great view of the iconic W Hotel, designed by the famous Catalan architect Ricardo Bofill. I certainly could not find a better place to finish our stroll through Las Ramblas than a front view of the Mediterranean Sea and Sun. Modern Barcelona was born with the Eixample. This area is the result of one of the most splendid periods in the city's history, a time when it was establishing its position as the economic powerhouse of Catalonia and Spain in the mid-19th century. The Eixample project was the brainchild of the engineer and town planner Ildefons Cerdà, who created a grid-like layout and blocks with chamfered corners. This shape has made it an iconic symbol of Barcelona and the subject of study around the world as the birth of modern, rational urban planning. I will be showing you around iconic streets and monuments in a neighborhood that is home to world-renowned architect sites, top fashion boutiques, countless restaurants, and endless array of cafes and bars. All in between a local community that lives proudly in this unique area. Our first stop in this neighborhood begins in Plaza Catalunya, a square considered the most central point of Barcelona, the square that unifies the old city and the modern one, and that marks the beginning of iconic streets such as Las Ramblas or Paseo de Gracia, a square where locals and tourists meet and where the main protests take place. A square not to miss due to its fountains and statues, its proximity to some of Barcelona's most popular attractions, and for the flock of pigeons that gather in the center. It is from here, from Plaza Catalunya, we begin our route through the Eixample neighborhood, and we walk towards Paseo de Gracia, the most elegant and majestic boulevard in Barcelona. With just a little imagination, you can still hear the horse-drawn carriages, the smell of the early trams, and visualize the elegant ladies walking arm in arm with their husbands, accompanied by their maids who are looking after their children. Yes, this is what Passeig de Gràcia was like in the late 19th and early 20th century. Still, the imposing buildings continue to delight everyone who passes by. Jewels created by architects of the caliber of Gaudi, Puig i Cadafalch, and Domènech i Montaner, to just name a few. On the pavement, we can see the organic paving stones designed by Gaudi, and along the boulevard are the street lamps by Pere Falqués, with their white mosaic benches. The architectural jewels stand side by side with some of Barcelona's most prestigious shops. Walking up the boulevard, we will not fail to miss Casa Batlló, the first masterpiece of Gaudi that we find on our way. This stunning building was designed for Josep Batlló, a wealthy aristocrat, as an upmarket home. Senyor Batlló lived in the lower 2 floors with his family, and the upper floors were rented out as apartments. A facade full of imagination and symbolism that looks like it has been made from skulls and bones. The skulls are in fact the balconies, and the bones are the supporting pillars. The roof is composed of large scales which resemble an animal's back. A dragon, maybe? Or does it look more like an aquatic landscape? Since Gaudi found in marine life the inspiration for his creativity in this building. Gaudi himself never explained his work, had no specific plans, and consequently he created a house full of symbols, fantastic imagery, a story to be completed by each individual with their own imagination. We continue now walking up Passeig de Gràcia until we encounter the Gran Casa Milà, mostly known as La Pedrera. We can now admire the last building of architect Gaudí before he devoted himself completely to the construction of La Sagrada Familia. La Pedrera means quarry, and the front of the house looks like a massive rock, broken only by wavy lines and iron ornaments. The bright stone and the otherwise colorless facade of this building distinguishes it from Gaudi's other works. It stands in contrast to Casa Batlló, with its colorful and playful facade. Designed as a fashionable home to the wealthy Milà family, the construction of the interior was groundbreaking as well. The house has a natural ventilation system, which makes air conditioning unnecessary. Gaudí designed Casa Milà exclusively with natural shapes, therefore that there is hardly a right angle to find anywhere. Can you imagine how difficult it is furnishing such an apartment with irregular shapes? The highlight of Casa Milà is without doubt the roof. Not only the outstanding view over the city attracts the attention of the visitors, but also the chimneys, ventilation shafts, and staircases also captured the attention with their imaginative shapes. Some chimneys look like medieval knights guarding the roof. With the viewing of La Pedrera, as the last finished work of Gaudi, I cannot wait to show you the jewel of the crown, the one-of-a-kind temple for its origins, foundation, and purpose, La Sagrada Familia. Today, more than 135 years after the laying of the cornerstone, construction continues on the most famous monument and most visited landmark in the whole of Spain. Gaudí passed away in 1926, leaving his most important project, which he was devoted to, unfinished. A remarkable and original basilica that was to have 18 towers. However, he died having only built one of the church's towers. Nevertheless, thanks to his architectural plans, his work continues to be built to this day by renowned architects. Although it isn't completed, the Sagrada Familia is an impressive temple packed with religious symbolism. 12 of the towers will represent the apostles. 4 of them will represent the evangelists. 1 will be designed for the Virgin Mary, and of course the last one, the highest one in the middle, will represent Jesus Christ. La Sagrada Familia is home to the tomb of Gaudi, located in the underground level of the building. One of the most common questions related to La Sagrada Familia is, when will the structure be completed? I also wonder. But since it was founded in 1888, it has been built thanks to donations. That is why it's taking so long to complete. And it could still take several more years. So here I am again. I hope you have enjoyed the walk through my lovely city. We have visited 3 of the main areas in Barcelona to show you just a few of the most important sites, but it would be a shame not to take you out of the city center and bring you to this magical green space that could well be a setting of a fairy tale. We leave the city center behind, we leave the sea, and we walk up the hill to Gracia, another neighborhood of Barcelona, to welcome you to this amazing park, El Parc Güell. So sit back and relax and enjoy the tour of this last site of Barcelona. Parc Güell is a spectacular public park designed in 1900. However, the original plan for the site was not to create the most iconic park in Barcelona, but a residential area where the elite of the city would live. Count Eusebi Güell came up with the idea of building a housing development with magnificent views over the seas and the urban metropolis. Gaudi's plans for this work were as remarkable as the rest. It had a complex network of paths and viaducts, 60 houses, a chapel, a theatre, and of course vegetation. However, over the years, this idea had to be transformed. The lack of buyers due to the complex conditions of sale of the plots, the lack of suitable transport system, and the highly exclusive character of the development meant that only 2 of the houses envisaged were built. In Parc Güell, we can also find the home of Gaudi, where he lived from 1906 to 1925. Eusebi Güell died in 1918, and his successors offered the park to the city council, which opened as a municipality park in 1926. The park that we can now enjoy. From the entrance esplanade, a twin flight of steps lead to the hypostila room. This is where we find the famous lizard, which is actually known as El Drac. or dragon in Catalan. Covered with mosaic, this statue has become the most popular image of the park and even of Barcelona. There are many mythologic elements throughout the park, since both Gaudi and Güell were fascinated by Greek mythology. This colorful lizard, that looks like the guardian of the park, is interpreted as the mythical dragon serpent Python, which guarded the temple of Apollo at Delphi. On the last flight of steps, sheltered under the hypostyle room, we can also find a Greek theatre-shaped bench. Moving from the staircase into the hypostyle room, you are immediately hit by a cool breeze. This large space was created as a covered market for the residents of the community. It's made up of 86 columns inspired in the Doric order, which hold up a brilliant white domed ceiling. The outside columns are inclined to compensate the square's weight. Amongst the white tiles on the dome ceiling, we can see colorful circular rosettes. The larger rosettes represent the 4 seasons, and the smaller ones are meant to be the versions of the sun and the moon. I now want to bring you to the Nature Square, the emblematic place of the park with astonishing views of the entire Barcelona. This square is half built into the rocks of the hillside itself, and it is supported by the hypostyle room below. Its long bench of mosaics is one of the most photographed monuments of Barcelona. The bench, that is shaped to look like a snake, is 110 meters long and is said to be the longest bench in the world. But what really attracts the attention on the bench is its famous mosaics. As we know, Gaudi used here the technique of trencadís, consistent in reusing bursts of recovering ceramics to make new decorative motifs, and this bench is the best example of this. Here I am again, in an unbeatable location, looking over the sea and Parc Güell, and I thank you all for joining me in this tour of my lovely city, Barcelona. We are in an unprecedented situation that doesn't allow me to move freely through my city and be able to show you in more detail all the lovely sights. But I do hope that with this video you will have had a little glimpse of my city. We can't wait to have our beloved Viking guests back to our shores, here in Barcelona and in the rest of the world. But for now, from Parc Güell, adios to you all.